Exiled Queen by user jenarino. I sat at the dining table, nursing a glass of brimstone whiskey that smoked as I brought it to my lips, the stinging sulfuric fumes wafting from the intoxicating alcohol settled me after returning from another disruptive summoning. This one had been a man in his late 50s who was deranged and looking for a way to repay an ex-lover who had recently jilted him. I rolled my eyes at the memory, remembering how I dragged her screaming down to hell for the price of what little soul the man still held within him. What the hell am I doing working for a peasant? I thought to myself as a sizzling liquid slid down my throat. It was the curse of being bound to a summoning spell. Whenever a mortal deigned to summon me, I was required to make a deal with them, no matter how unremarkable their soul energy was. Most of the mortals who chose to enact the spell had slowly descended to madness, losing the little bits of the soul that remained. I set my glass on the rich mahogany table before me as I felt the familiar tugging sensation in my gut. Another summoning, I groaned, wishing desperately I could ignore the beckons of whatever mortal had decided to execute the spell. With a last glance at the fire demon dancing merrily in the hearth beside me, I snapped my fingers and teleported to the precise location on Earth where the summoning circle resided. Billowing smoke clouded my view as I slowly rejoined the mortal realm. As a last tendril twisted, I beheld the surroundings of my newest summoner. With shock, I realized I was standing in a child's room. Shelves of toys and stuffed animals lined the walls, though the floor was left impeccably clean. Beneath my feet was a perfect summoning circle, drawn with crayons upon multiple pieces of paper, arrayed in a haphazard ring. My gaze traveled upwards to meet the gleeful smile of a young girl. She couldn't have been more than 5 years of age if my little experience with human children was correct. This made no sense. How could a mere child summon me? How could she know the incantation and the precise swirls and angular shapes that made up the complex summoning circle? Girl, I growled, my deep demonic intonation reverberating off the walls. Do you know the being that summoned me? It was me, of course, she said simply, her eyes gleaming with pride and something else I couldn't quite place. Something almost predatory. Nonsense! Stop wasting my time and lead me to the human who truly performed the ritual. I spat, my patience growing thin with these childish games. As I told you before, Lazarus, it was me, she said. I could have sworn her eyes took on a reddish hint around her irises as a sinister grin spread across her lips. And how, pray tell, do you know my name? I hissed, my astonishment bubbling in my chest at hearing my true name pass from the lips of a mortal. How do you think? She snapped in response. The glowing red of her irises quickly engulfed the rest of her eyes as demonic energy began to pulse from her body. Who are you? I asked, staggering backwards. Her form began to morph, her mortal clothing replaced with the regal dress commonly seen in the court of the devil himself. Her hair waved in the phantom breeze as her power grew, as it desperately clawed its way out of her mortal body. I'm your future queen, she said with a triumphant sneer. Thanks for listening. If you have any suggestions for any stories you want me to try to narrate, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Until next time.